We have always been saying that once you get your US citizenship and you get your US passport, that you are safe from deportation measures or any implementation of policies against you that you might lose your passport. But oh, have we been wrong? Recently, throughout social media, we are seeing articles being circulated regarding persons who are having their passports confiscated when they try to re-enter the United States. A case in point is a Bajan woman who went home for the holidays. Then when she was trying to return to the United States, her US passport was confiscated and she was barred re-entry into the United States. What could have caused this? Stay tuned for this valuable content where we will be diving into the reasons that can have your US passport confiscated and your re-entry barred back into the United States and what you can do to prevent it. This content is especially for those persons who have dual citizenship, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the Next Level Life Hacks, where we take the next steps needed to go towards our financial freedom and our success. Now, for many years, persons with dual citizenship and those who have more than one passport have been able to use their passports interchangeably as they visit their home countries or anywhere that they have another passport for, and be able to re-enter the United States hassle-free. But especially now with the crackdown on the immigration and with more rules being stringently followed by the immigration officers and border patrol, you will find that laws that have lain dormant or inactive for some time and not really enforced, they are now being enforced, and everyone has to be careful because there are many loopholes that can be used if it is that you are going to be targeted. Now, as I mentioned before, this content is specifically for those persons with dual citizenship, but by and large, we all know someone that has dual citizenship, more than one passport. So if you know of anyone else, immediately send this content to them so that they can be made up to date. Now, the law really is that once you have a US passport, you must use the US passport when you are exiting the United States and when you are re-entering the United States. Oftentimes, persons will use their other passport when they are leaving the United States, and then they try to use the US passport when coming back in because they no longer have a US visa, so they must use a US passport. But what is currently happening is that the immigration officers are being more detailed, and they will ask you, what passport did you use to leave the United States? As in the case of this Bajan woman, when she re-entered the United States, she was questioned by the immigration officer, and as usual, that light went up and she was brought to secondary inspection. She was totally confused because as far as she knows, once she got her US citizenship and got her US passport, then certain questioning and certain scrutiny that she would go through as a green card holder, then she expected that that would no longer be the case. But oh, was she wrong? When it was realized that she had used her Barbadian, and I'm going to ask you for forgiveness, my Barbados viewers, because sometimes I don't know which one to use. Is it Barbadian or Bajan? But I'm sure you will forgive me as I try to get the point across. Now, once she answered that she had used her Barbadian passport to exit the United States, then she was immediately told that her US passport would be confiscated because it is deemed that she does not have a need for it. And is this based on US law? Unfortunately, yes, it is. Because I did my research, and when I went on the website, I found the information that clearly states that once you have a US passport, it is by law the expectation, not only expectation, but requirement that you use your US passport when exiting and when re-entering the United States. So I know that sometimes it is easier for you to be using your other passport when returning home, because in my case, I know that when I go home, The visitors' line for immigration is always so long and moves much more slowly because they have to be put through further scrutiny and questioning. How long are you going to be in the country for? What's the purpose of your visit? Where will you be staying? So they will be going through all of those questions, while the persons who are locals or nationals of the island or country, their processing is much faster. So the temptation is actually there for you to use your home country passport when leaving the United States because you think that you will be processed faster. Remember as well that even though there are some third world countries or your home country will be using biometrics for your entry into your home country, it is not used all the time because the system is not being implemented fully. So therefore you will realize that the immigration officer in your home country will stamp the passport that you're using to enter. Therefore, when you try to re-enter the United States and they are reviewing your passport, if they are not seeing a stamp from your home country or whatever destination you went to, they will then ask you, what passport did you leave to exit the United States? Not only that, remember that everything is now centralized. The immigration officer that is at the US border that is monitoring your re-entry into the United States actually has access to the airline information. Even when you are booking and checking in for your flight, if it is that you used another passport to check in for your flight leaving the United States, that information is accessible to the US immigration officer when he is reviewing your information. Therefore, don't be fooled into thinking that you can keep anything from them. That is why I've always said, be honest to the immigration officer. The worst thing that you can do is tell a lie, because by and large, they are seeing all your information on their screen. So therefore, you have to be careful. Now, because this law is on the books, what are the consequences that you can face if you are found to be violating this law? 1, your US passport can be confiscated. 2, your re-entry into the United States can actually be denied pending investigation and pending a decision if it is that you still meet the requirements for your US citizenship and by extension your US passport. And repeated offenses can actually lead to more legal consequences because you are violating the law repeatedly. Not only that, once it is that you are found to be in contravention of that law, a notice made in the system, and every single time afterwards you are going to be facing additional questioning and scrutiny by any immigration officer. It stays on your record for an extended period, therefore prevent it from being on your record in the very first place. Now, to be honest, I personally did not know that this law existed. Therefore, I am sure that there are many other persons who may not be aware of this law on the books. As a matter of fact, if it is that you knew or you did not know of this law before the trending emails and the posts are being circulated through social media, be honest. Tell me in the comment section below if it is that you were aware of this policy or this law, because I honestly was not aware of it until I did my investigation, and that is why I rushed to present this content for you. All in all, my friends, be careful in terms of preserving your US citizenship and your US passport. We worked so hard to get our citizenship and our passport. The process was also lengthy, expensive, and time-consuming. Therefore, do not do anything that can jeopardize your citizenship and, by extension, your US passport. Again, if you know of anyone else that can benefit from this information, please pass it on, share it with them immediately. I thank you for spending this time with me, and see you in the next video.